Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football. Massive week 2 matchup. Texas heading on the road to play Michigan. This is one of those games that if you're a college football fan, you are clearing your schedule Saturday at noon. Not only because these are two of the best teams in all of college football going head to head, but I think more importantly, massive college football playoff implications. You're looking at two teams that were in the college football playoffs just a year ago. Now, we took a look at this game from a preview and prediction standpoint. We just took a look at this game from a Texas standpoint in terms of what Texas can do to give Michigan some problems. Now we're going to take a look at it from a Michigan standpoint. What can Michigan do at home to give Texas some problems in this football game? Really excited to get into this one. Now, before we do, and as always, let it fly in the comment section. These are some of the best episodes to do because we just get to talk ball with you guys in the comment section here, and kind of all sorts of different inputs and how you guys see the football game. So would love to hear from you guys in the comment section. Of course, if y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. And without further ado, let's start with, I think, by far the biggest question mark us Michigan fans have in this matchup, and that is, what is the passing attack going to look like? And can we have a downfield vertical passing attack in this football game? I think it's massive, right? You look at how Michigan wants to operate on offense. We didn't necessarily get an answer in terms of, can Davis Warren win vertically down the field? Can these wide receivers win vertically down the field? We're going to need to get that answer week 2 against Texas, because you look at what Texas is going to do. I think they're going to put their safeties in the box. I think they're going to try to take away some of those short intermediate route concepts, specifically to Colson Loveland. I mean, you go back to that Fresno State game, Davis Warren had 24 attempts. Only 5 of them went 10 plus yards down the field. He only completed one of them. And so again, I think from a Michigan fan standpoint, you're not necessarily saying Davis Warren cannot make those throws, but we didn't get to see him make those throws on a consistent basis against Fresno State. I know there are a lot of Michigan fans out there that kind of have the point of view that, hey, Michigan didn't want to show that week 1 against Fresno State, and that very well could be true. And Michigan's going to have to show it, though, week 2 against Texas, because this is going to be a team that is, last year, you go back to last year, Michigan didn't necessarily have to push the ball vertically down the field all that often. But I think the special part about Michigan's offense last year is when he needed to, J.J. McCarthy was able to make those throws. This is going to be a Texas team that's going to be hard to continue to run the football on if they want to put their safeties in the box, because Texas is very good along the lines of scrimmage. They got really good linebackers. What Michigan's going to need to do is, when Texas wants to roll their safeties into the box and take away a guy like Colson Loveland and take away the run game, Michigan's going to have to make Texas pay for that. And I think we're going to see, not only from Davis Warren, but guys like Tyler Morris, or a guy like Kendrick Bell, or a guy like Samaj Morgan, guys that we haven't seen play a ton of football at the collegiate level. They're going to need to show up and create some explosive plays down the field. Because if Michigan is this one-dimensional offense that can only run their passing attack through Colson Loveland and run the football, it's going to be really hard to beat a Texas team that's as good as they are. Now, I think number 2, you got to stay on schedule a little bit better than we did against Fresno State. There were a lot of first and second down carries, specifically with Donovan Edwards, that just weren't successful. And us as Michigan fans know, having watched this team over the last couple of years, Michigan as an offense does not want to live in those third and long situations. And I think it's even more important against Texas week 2 in this situation, where you don't have a top 10 NFL draft pick at quarterback. You don't have 2 wide receivers that got selected in the NFL draft, in Roman Wilson and Cornelius Johnson. We saw from Davis Warren that he can be extremely accurate, work in the short intermediate route tree. Those are throws that he's very comfortable making. You don't want to put him in those 3rd and 9 situations where, one, a young, wouldn't say inexperienced and young, but a new offensive line has to hold up in pass protection. But I think more importantly, you're going to ask Davis Warren to push the ball down the field consistently. I think you want to keep this offense on schedule. I think you want to stay in those 3rd and medium situations where you can let Davis Warren thrive with the throws that he's comfortable making, because we know he can make those throws. He was extremely accurate working those short underneath route concepts. But when he was asked to push the ball down the field, not very often, but when he was, that's when we start having some question marks. So you look at this Michigan offense, and something I think is key is getting Caleb Mullings going early. You look at Donovan Edwards, and we had this conversation on Saturday night after the football game. Donovan Edwards is an extremely explosive running back. And us as Michigan fans have massively appreciated some of those explosive runs against Washington and Ohio State over the last couple of years. That being said, he's not always been the best running back in terms of keeping this offense on schedule. Kaleb Mullings, on the other hand, he certainly is. You go back to that Fresno State game Saturday night, the one drive that really featured Kaleb Mullings, Michigan worked their way down the field methodically and scored a touchdown in the fourth quarter. That's kind of how this Michigan offense needs to look. And I think Kaleb Mullings is the guy to get that done. And he's a big body. He's a guy that can handle, 15, 20 plus carries against an SEC opponent like Texas. So staying on schedule with the run game, having that downfield passing attack go when it's there. And again, I want to make that clear. I'm saying Michigan needs downfield passing attack. We don't need to rely on the downfield passing attack, but when the opportunity presents himself and we get some one-on-one matchups on the boundary, we need to be able to make Texas pay in that football game. Going to the defensive side of the football, and I think by far for me personally, the most exciting storyline is this Coach Sark, Wink Martindale play calling battle. And the key that I want to talk about is balanced aggression. And I think us as Michigan fans understand that if Michigan wins this football game against Texas Saturday afternoon, make no mistake about it, it's going to be on the backs of what we think is one of the best defenses in the country. And it's one of the best defenses in the country because it's extremely aggressive. It can get after the quarterback, it can create turnovers, it can create negative plays. We need to have that Saturday against Texas. That being said, it does need to be balanced because Coach Sark has showed that he can dial up those explosive plays and really change games, especially when Michigan defenses want to get aggressive. Or you can go back to the Fresno State game where Will Johnson jumping that slug and go route, getting beat. The ball wasn't caught, but he was clearly beat kind of over the top. We don't want to take that out of Will Johnson because on the next play, what does he go? He jumps the screen pass, takes it back to the house. Will Johnson needs to operate like that. This Michigan defense needs to operate like that. That being said, it has to be balanced. You don't want to give up the explosive play. I think the avenue for Texas winning this football game is not methodically marching it down the field against Michigan. We think Michigan's defense is too good. But if they hit those explosive plays to guys like Isaiah Bond, that's probably the avenue for Texas to win this football game. I think another thing when we're talking about aggression is probably getting after the right tackle position for Texas. And Texas's offensive line is great. They have one of, if not the best left tackles in the country in Kelvin Banks. That being said, they have a new right tackle. Texas gave up only 2 pressures against Colorado. Both of those pressures came on the right side against right tackle Cam Williams. The good thing for Michigan, you got 2 really good edge rushers, and whoever is on that matchup against Cam Williams, whether it's Derek Moore or Josiah Stewart, they need to be a force in this football game, disrupting the pocket for Quinn Ewers. Quinn Ewers historically has struggled when he's blitzed and when he's under pressure. You got to be able to get Quinn Ewers off his spot. And one of the big knocks on Quinn Ewers, he's not the best at extending plays when the pocket gets muddy. He's not necessarily the best at getting out of the pocket and extending those plays. So can Michigan get after in the pass rush, affect Quinn Ewers in the pocket? That is by far the best way to get Quinn Ewers off his spot a little bit. And the last thing I want to talk about is linebackers in space. This is something that, excuse me, that I think Coach Sark does a phenomenal job of, and that is getting the matchups and exploiting the matchups. And one of the things that Texas wants to do historically with Coach Sark is get their running backs in space out of the backfield. I do think that Michigan's defense, specifically in the linebacker room, is better suited to do that than we've had the last couple of years. I love a guy like Mikey Bear. Mikey Bear was awesome for Michigan. He stayed. He was a very good linebacker for Michigan, but was he the best athlete in space? No, he probably wasn't. You look at Jay Sean Barham and Ernest Hausman, significantly better spacey linebackers. They're going to need to be that against Texas because what does Texas want to do? They want to get a guy like Jaden Blue out in space on linebackers and coverage and exploit that matchup. I think Michigan has the linebackers to kind of deal with that. And I think that's going to be a big storyline, especially with this Michigan pass rush. I think Texas is going to go to a lot of short intermediate concepts, specifically some screens, some swing passes to get their running backs and playmakers in space. We need these linebackers to cover a lot of ground. Jay Sean Barham and Ernest Hausman, I think, are up for the task, and they're going to need to be up for the task against Texas Saturday afternoon. It's going to be a really fun football game. The line is now 7.5 points. So Vegas, the people, seem to really think Texas is going to win this football game and win it kind of handily. think a lot of Michigan fans are saying, hey, I don't know if it was the most inspiring performance against Fresno State week 1, but we know we have one of, if not the best defenses in the country. And we know we're going to have a decent run game. It's going to keep us in this football game. It's going to come down to a few plays. Michigan has to make those plays. Michigan has historically over the last year made those plays to win the game. They're going to need to do it again against Texas. We'll sign out there. Appreciate you guys rocking with the fellas. Again, if y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Appreciate you guys, and we'll talk to y'all